Hey, Laura here from The Unprofessional, and today I am going to do something to this kind of awkward closet to maximize the space and make it a lot more efficient and organized. So you can see there is an HVAC return running right through the middle of this closet. I'm going to work around it. I'm going to put in some shelves and possibly a French cleat system so that I can take advantage of every nook and cranny in this closet. As you can see, this is not my first attempt at trying to solve this closet problem. My temporary solution was this cube shelf and then stuffing everything in around the HVAC pipe, which was great until you had to find something and then you had to take everything out. What I really wanted, in addition to a closet rod and shelves, was a system where I could put bins and hooks in the space in front of the HVAC pipe. My first thought was just to frame in the entire pipe. But the bottom had an elbow, so it was significantly wider than the rest of the pipe, and I didn't want to lose that space. Above the elbow, I had 10 inches of space from the front of the HVAC pipe to the door. That's plenty of room for hooks and bins. I just had to think of the best way to frame it in without losing that space. What I decided to do was to build a small frame around the elbow and put a lip on the top, then build a slimmer frame for the rest of the pipe that would rest on the top of the first frame. I made the bottom frame out of leftover 3/4 of an inch plywood. I applied edge banding to all of the edges that would show, then put a generous amount of wood glue in the corners, countersunk some screw holes, and connected the piece with screws. Then I attached the lip with some more glue and brad nails. Once the bottom frame was ready, I put it in to see where I needed to cut the trim out so that it would fit flush against the wall. Then I used a multi-tool to notch out the trim. I attached a strip of plywood at the back of the bottom frame. This serves two purposes. It's a way to attach the frame to the wall, and it's the back support for the first shelf. I did a dry fit to make sure it all lined up, and then I made the second frame with 1/2 inch plywood and pocket screws. Then I did the rest of my edge banding. I filled all the holes, I sanded, and I primed. With the frames ready, I attached the bottom one, being careful that the shelf support was level. Then I ripped a 2x4 into strips to attach vertically to the wall above the bottom frame. I positioned them to sit inside the edges of the top frame so I could attach the frame to each 2x4 strip with screws. It worked great and it kept everything really secure. With the frames attached, I cut down some plywood scraps for the shelf supports. I attached them to the wall on the left and the back and directly to the plywood frame on the right. To attach to the frame, I used glue and brad nails. And then I called in the inspector to get his stamp of approval. Now onto the shelves. I cut 3 1/2 inch plywood shelves, sanded them, and gave them each a coat of primer. I attached them to each support with a brad nailer. I left a very small expansion gap that I filled in later with caulking. Then I attached trim pieces to the front of each shelf. With a little bit of quarter round and a few coats of paint, it was really starting to look good. Then I attached a closet rod to the very top of the frame piece and to the wall. My closet is essentially done, but there's one thing I'm going to add that is going to make this different than a normal closet, and that is a French cleat wall. Not a wall really, but just this panel. So what a French cleat is, it is a strip of wood that is cut here at 45-degree angles. This is the cleat that is mounted to the wall, and it is mounted like this. Then there is a second cleat that is attached to an accessory, also cut at a 45-degree angle. And what it does is, as this drops in, it locks to the wall behind it and whatever the accessory is to the front, and it makes it super, super sturdy with this 45-degree angle. So I'm going to attach cleats all the way up, and this is going to make this kind of a modular type system. So for different seasons or as my kids grow, I can change where I put the accessories without pulling them off the wall and re-drilling them in. Plus I think it's going to look kind of cool. I've already put stuff in my closet, even though I'm not done with the project. And that is because I'm tired of having it on the floor. I should probably pull it out, but I'm not going to. I think this is going to be easy to attach. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on it, I've got a spacer that I'm going to use right here. The cleats are 2.5 inches and this is 3 inches. So they're going to be spaced 3 inches apart. The cleat's going to be 2.5 inches. My dog's barking at the mailman. I made my cleats out of 1x5 inch pine. First, I did all of my crosscuts to the same width as the front of the frame. Then I used my table saw to cut each piece in half at a 45-degree angle. This created 2 cleats the same size out of each piece of 1x5. Attaching the cleats to the wall was the easiest part. I started the first cleat a little ways up because of the lip on the first frame piece. I put a little bit of glue on the back of each cleat and used the brad nail to nail it straight to the frame. I used the spacer between each cleat to make sure it was the same distance apart. Even though I had a spacer, I used my level to check each piece because once you put these cleats on the wall, they're really hard to pull off. Now that I had all of my cleats, it was time to make some accessories. Now I could have made these accessories from scratch out of plywood, but this was a long project and I was ready to be done. So the first accessory I made was just out of an IKEA hook that I had laying around. I cut the hook in half, put some wood glue on the back, clamped it together, and then used some brad nails to secure it. You definitely want to let all of the wood glue dry completely on the cleats. If you don't, when you put the wall cleat and the accessory cleat together, the wood glue between the two could dry, and then you won't be able to move them around and it won't be a modular system. I was really excited to try my cleats out and they worked really, really well. Now I had plans to paint them, and what I was going to do is use the most matte paint I could find because I didn't want any sticky paint between the two cleats because I was afraid they could kind of stick together. So I actually used a chalk paint. It's the first time I've used this kind of paint, but it worked really well and there's no stick between the cleats. So I can move everything around and it really works great. I added a few extra baskets that I found on Amazon. They're like stackable bins. And it's really, really working out great. I love this system. And here's a final look at what I had before and what I have now. It is a huge improvement and it is so functional. Thanks for watching. This has been Laura from The Unprofessional. To see written instructions for this project and other DIY projects, visit my website, theunprofessional.com. And if you like this video, please don't forget to click the like button and subscribe.